just talking.
Because we are uncool. I don't believe in guilty pleasure.
A choice right now between fear and love.
Welcome back to Empower the Audience. This is me, Corey, and I'm here with Movie Guy 84, Chris, and we're here to talk about what we've been watching, what we've been consuming. It's been a while, but we've been, with our movie passes, we've been catching up on a lot of stuff, keeping current. So, the first thing I was going to talk about was something I saw that he did not see. Bridge of Spies. Bridge of Spies is the latest Spielberg-Hanksian collaboration. I can't remember how many there have been. Like 3 or 4 or something like that. I know it's the Saving Private Ryan, there's The Terminal, there's, I can't remember what else. And then there's, Catch Me If You Can, and then this, so about the 4th or whatever. Bridge of Spies is about a civilian insurance attorney who was co-opted by the United States government to broker a deal for the U-2 spy plane pilot, Gary Powers, in the early 60s, whose plane was shot down over Russia. So you have an American spy pilot in Russia captured, and we have found a Russian spy in America, and so his task, that pretty much gargantuan task at that time, because the Iron Curtain was really strong, the Cold War was running hot, shall we say, and so this civilian guy who's great at his job, working for corporations and insurance companies and all that kind of thing, as an attorney is now, at the height of patriotism, like the peak it got before Nixon and all that, is required to put his reputation and literally his life on the line to broker this deal. Because the beginning of it is him representing this Russian spy and basically defending him, so that they can ultimately broker this deal. And so it was a really good movie. I really enjoyed it. It's everything you would expect from a historical Spielberg movie with Tom Hanks. There wasn't any great surprises. Definitely tense moments for sure, especially when they get to the East German part of it. But it was just another home run, which is what you expect from these two working together. Tom Hanks, I'll say it probably 10,000 times on this show, he's the Jimmy Stewart of this generation of actors. He is just reliable, and he is the everyman. He's the one that everybody cites with. The only reason Jimmy Stewart was a great actor, nothing against him, but he had America's heartstrings in his back pocket. At that time, he practically couldn't do any wrong, and certainly time is on to that. I think a lot of people just resonate with him because he's that all-American kind of guy, and Hanks hates the nice guy thing. I've heard him in interviews, and what does he do with the nice guy thing? And he's actually challenged that a lot in his roles. Doing Road to Perdition was one of those where he really wanted to not play the nice guy or the doofus that doesn't know what he's doing, but he wanted to play guys that have been through stuff. And so there's nothing he can do, I don't think, to get America not to like him, though. Captain Phillips is one in recent memory that, man, just he kills you. He kills you every time because he's so sympathetic. As an actor, he touches in to that emotional core, and he just does so good. So definitely, this is going to be a good one. You're going to like it, especially if you like historical stuff. That time period, which is always fascinating to me. I'm a big into the Kennedy era, and definitely, obviously, you want to check this out if the words Spielberg and Hanks have anything to do with your life, you're going to want to see this one. The next one we actually saw together. It is spooky time. We're just recording this just after Halloween, but Chris and I went to go see Crimson Peak. I'll let you start off talking about this because you probably know even more about the behind than I do.
Yeah. I've been excited for this movie for a while, with it being directed and co-written by Guillermo del Toro. Big fan of his stuff from Pan's Labyrinth and Hellboy, those movies. Always been a fan of him. So this looked amazing from the first time I saw the trailer. Very like a gothic horror romance kind of thing, ghost story, and it definitely satisfied that. It had all the right stuff. It looked beautiful. Even at the beginning of the movie, before it gets to this big haunted house. And even the haunted house itself, even though it's very creepy and it's got a lot of, it seemed to have like a lot of sharp edges in its design, so it looked evil in a way, but it was still very pretty, very beautiful looking movie. All the costumes, the visual effects were cool. I learned that a lot of some of the effects that are done in it, like with the ghost, were actually people. It wasn't digital, like 100% CGI.
Right.
It was actually people in makeup, in full ghost attire.
I've seen that way,
all
yeah.
decayed and stuff. And then obviously they scanned them and then used them in the movie.
Yeah, it looked like they put kind of like a smoky type effect on the actual actor. Where I mean, in the CGI process, it had this kind of black smoke to it. It was a real great effect because you have these ghosts. Ghosts are normally seen as transparent, as if lit up by some kind of like ethereal light or whatever. These guys are black, and the cool thing about it is they're dead. Obviously, their souls, but they are wearing what you would wear to a funeral. They were black. Their faces were black. Without even saying it. Because like a lot of times movies have these over expositional things. Well, these ghosts appear black as if they were mourning, blah blah blah, whatever. No, they just don't. He just shows it, and it resonates in your brain as, wow, this is a dead thing. This is a ghost thing, because black is always associated with funerals and stuff like that, which I just now realized. But yeah, what he's saying, it's very organic, but it's like an old school. He never wanted to it didn't seem like he wanted to throw technology in there that would take you out of the fact that it is a period piece. We're talking about a probably Jane Austen era story, unless you haven't seen the trailers. Imagine that, but it being a very creepy. It's hard to even call it a horror movie. Guillermo calls it a gothic romance, which is definitely a literary technical term. But what it means is that it's a ghost story. It's the best way to say it. Now, modern day ghost story means paranormal activity where there's a security camera on or whatever. This is like classic stuff. If you like Jane Austen stuff, and you can handle a little bit of suspense, a little creepy, some violence. There's some violent scenes in it, but it's not your average horror movie, and that's what attracted me to it. I kept watching the trailers to see, am I going to be handle this? Because I can handle creepy stuff. We've talked about Something Wicked This Way Comes on the previous podcast. That is, it gives me chills, and I love that. I'm not a super horror fan where I want to see gore or a lot of really intense supernatural stuff. But this was really enjoyable. I really, really liked this. And I thought it was ironic that Pride and Prejudice and Zombies is coming out pretty soon too, right at the time. And I'm sure that's no accident on whatever studio is doing either film, is that they want to kind of capture that momentum of what people are watching. But yeah, I thought it was great. It was gorgeous, like he said. Just the look and everything of it was like perfect. It reminded me, as we were watching it, of a Wes Anderson movie where the production designers, which are the people that make the sets, are firing on all cylinders and actually given leeway. They don't have to they're not chained down to what a director. This guy gives them all the power they need to really go over the top, because that's what the person doing it. I'm sure Guillermo's an artist in the sense that he probably draws a lot of ideas that he wants. I mean, he's made a comic book, but I'm sure it's so he's very much a Tim Burton style director, where it's the visuals are so much a part of what he does. Not like, oh, that's an interesting shot. No, it's part of him. It's who he is. So yeah, it was just I highly recommend it if you can handle a little bit of violence, like you've seen maybe action movie level violence. Then there's some scenes that have that in it, but the rest of it is just it's kind of cool, goosebumpy, creepy.
Kind of reminds me of the classic, The Haunting.
Right,
Yeah,
the old black and white one, right?
Yeah.
Which I've yet to see. I saw the terrible '90s remake, whatever those 2000s remake. So I said goosebumpy. That was my inadvertent segue into the next movie of kind of seasonal stuff. Goosebumps, which I have never read as a child. I was a little bit old for this. I mean, I'm the kind of guy that would read stuff like a Harry Potter even when I'm an adult. But Goosebumps, I think there were so many of them, and then I was probably in my brain kind of equivalated with them with the Garbage Pail Kids or something like that. It's kind of a silly thing. And I was like, I don't know if I want to invest my time reading this. But Chris, you grew up reading them.
Yeah, I read those all through elementary school, and in going into middle school, I read them, and probably almost all of the series I read as a kid. But this it was kind of exciting to hear that they were making this movie because of being the fan when I was a kid, and I know a lot of those fans are now like my age, they're adults now, and there are some that probably have kids, and having them get excited about these books again is what got me excited about reading too, or part of what got me excited is reading as a kid, and then that grew into me into other stuff was an accessible book that's exciting and fun. Yeah,
parents, don't ever think that there's something that your kids shouldn't read, like a comic book or whatever. Obviously monitor whatever content you don't want it to be in it. If it's like too adult for them, but anything that is going to get a kid to read, let them do it. There's great comic books now that are designed for kids. That kid that struggles with reading will love you for life for having something like that in. This one, I was nervous about this one. I actually only went and saw this because of the movie Pass, because it was at the time I needed to see it. This was all about Showtime for me. When I'm very skeptical of children's movies and animated nowadays. To me, there's so much commercialism when it comes to animated. If you guys want to refer back to an older podcast that we had with Marshall and Vince, where we berated Cartoon Network and a lot of the modern animation stuff. Most of the stuff nowadays that's not coming from the big developers like Disney and Pixar and Blue Sky is usually pretty good, but just a lot of it's just so cheap. There was that Polar Bear movie we saw, this trailer for this Polar Bear movie, and it's just the problem with those movies is they're money grabs. They know the parents have to take their kids to the movies. It's one of the things they want to do, and so if they get a Showtime in there that this weekend we saw a good one, and next weekend we're going to go see another one, and it's not going to be great. I can tell you, I've seen movies with my son. I have a son, and man, some of those you just fall asleep because it's just like, okay, this is a commercial. Even worse than the Transformers and G.I. Joe commercials that were cartoons back in the day. Just terrible. They didn't write them at all. They basically gave a bare minimum of effort. And so when going to see Goosebumps, I was nervous because it's an adapted thing. It's not something I didn't even know about. And I'm like, are they going to mess it up? But I actually heard an interview with Jack Black on, I believe it was Nerdist. He was talking about it, and back to the fact that they actually talked to R.L. Stine about it and got his blessing and also a couple of tips of how to do it, which was to have it creepy but not too scary. That was the goal, and I'm sure, Chris, you could say that's what the books are like.
Yeah.
What really got me about this movie is basically the ringleader of the characters that come out of the books, because that's the whole thing, is the characters come out of the books. It is basically, it's voiced by Jack Black. It's the Slappy, the ventriloquist dummy, and it's a CG done thing as everything that all the creatures come out of CG. But if you look really closely when you watch this, watch the upper lip of Slappy. It's Jack Black's upper lip. It's like they got the mouth. I mean, I was trying to describe it to you. It's like perfect. Like it's like because watch School of Rock or any of his funny movies. His eyebrows and his lips are like he plays them like a fiddle or whatever. Like his facial expressions are what he's known for. It's almost like a Jim Carrey type situation. But so look very closely, you'll catch that little detail. Fully enjoyed this movie. Old fashioned, just fun. Not like I said, not berated with the weighed down with the commercialism. It was the nice thing about the script is it was very sharp and to the point. It never dragged. It never veered off into stuff that was dumb. It stayed on point. And the one surprise for me was Amy Ryan was in this movie, which I had no idea. We love Amy Ryan, obviously, from The Office. That was one of the best things for The Office for me. I'm kind of on a lot of The Office, but her role was great, and I'd seen her on recently on The Wire, and she's great. And Gone, Baby Gone. That's one I get. Gone, Baby Gone, and Gone Girl mixed up. She's great in that one as well. So yeah, just fun, good stuff to take to your kids to see, and not like a fast food meal. It's actually got some good stuff in it. So, okay. So the next one I'll talk about, the one that I have seen. He has not yet seen. I saw it yesterday, actually. Just a second. Let me take a water because my throat is dying. Okay. Steve Jobs, the new Steve Jobs movie. I've been waiting for this one for a while. The very lame, I will say this without even seeing it, from people that I've podcasters that I've heard talk about it, and also Steve Wozniak saying what's going on. The Ashton Kutcher, Josh Gad Jobs movie, just called Jobs. That was definitely a money grab, knowing that this other movie was coming out. There's no doubt in my mind because I see it happen all over, all the time. Talking about kids movies, every time Disney makes a movie, look at Redbox and see what knockoff they've come out with. It's the same character from fairy tales or whatever. It's that same thing. There's always a couple of movies that are similar, and so. The Jobs movie, don't even bother with it. If you want to laugh at it, how bad it is, that's fine. This Steve Jobs movie is an interesting one because one of the main reasons why I wanted to see it is Aaron Sorkin wrote the screenplay. I'm a big Aaron Sorkin fan, big West Wing fan. Pretty much everything he's done I've enjoyed. Some earlier stuff to a lesser degree, but I mean, this is the guy that did Few Good Men, did The West Wing, did The Newsroom most recently, wrote The Social Network, so he's actually kind of having an interesting point in history now where he's been doing movies about technology, which, full disclosure, he hates technology. He's not a big fan of what it does, and I probably would agree with him on some senses, because you got to be careful about how much technology takes over your life. But this movie is very interesting in that it's not really spoilers, but I've already told Chris about this. It focuses on product launches in the Apple's history, or in Steve Jobs' history specifically. So the Macintosh launch, the Next launch, which for those of you that don't know his history, it's after he got kicked out of Apple. He had this other computer called Next that was more an educational computer, and then the iMac launch. Fassbender is great, and there's no surprises that he is, because he just is. My wife, Zany Laney, that you know from YouTube, if you've been following her, she, when we saw X-Men First Class, grabbed my leg when he came on screen and said, "Who is that?" She is the biggest critic of actors. She's a theater major. And she basically said you have to give her goosebumps for her to even be impressed by you. She was like, "Wow, who is this guy?" So he did a great job. He's not a sympathetic character in this, and the one thing about this movie I'll say is that it's not a full holistic picture of him. It's not a biopic in a sense, like I described. It's very limited to the product launches. there are things about the character that I have heard, and I've read the, I believe it's Jacobson biography, where it was not painting just a pretty picture about him. People that are this focused on what they're doing, a lot of times, aren't sympathetic. I won't be an apologetic for him, but that's kind of what it is. He is so focused on getting what he knows and how he knows things should be. That's what happens a lot of times. Is people fall by the wayside for him. I don't know that he didn't have anything like Asperger's. If you watch this movie and just know the knowledge of Asperger's nowadays, you might think that he did. Who knows what exactly it was? But it's a great performance by Fassbender. Great performance by Kate Winslet, who plays, I don't remember the name, but it's the head of marketing for Apple. So that's why she would be there at the launches every time. So she's kind of like his confidant, his pardon the old term, Girl Friday in this. And the one person really that, at least according to this movie, that he could confide in, the one that could stand up to him, the one that could actually pull him through these events where his emotions are really swooping up and down. Just a great, really interesting take. If you're going for more historical and knowing exactly everything, read that book, the Jacobson book, the Steve Jobs book. But I think it's a really interesting movie. Just know that it's a lot of conflict. It's a lot of intense people just arguing about stuff. That's pretty much the majority of the movie. So if you're fascinated by thinkers and people that changed history, it's a good kind of first glimpse at who this guy was, and I would say it's definitely worth a shot. Okay, so I just like to touch on the big things in this household. If you look at our apartment, is Doctor Who is pretty much everywhere, and we have been watching. And I just want to kind of like do a little touch base with where we are in this season. I really enjoy this Doctor a lot, although I'm not preferential. I did like Matt Smith a lot, the last Doctor, but I'm enjoying the playing around with putting an older Doctor in, and they're really messing with the character, like to the point where I wonder if diehard Whovians will appreciate the fact that there's a lot of comedy in this season. This Doctor's coming into his own because he's only had one season previous, and they kind of let him be unsettled in a way. Peter Capaldi, I think, is doing a great job. It's fun, and it's fun also for me. I love knowing the background of things, and so for me, it's fun knowing that you have this guy who, from a child, grew up watching the show, loving it to death, getting to be on one episode previously, which was his world. He loved it, and now he gets to be the Doctor. So when somebody has that they're not going to just go off on whims. Not that he's writing it, but still, he's respectful of it. And I know that's important to nerds and Whovians and whatever. It's just a lot of fun. It has been announced that we're losing the companion after this season. I have been enjoying Clara. She's fun. A lot of people really prefer Amy Pond. But I kind of roll with all this stuff. I have to go back and watch a lot of this stuff because it really is so densely written that I forget a lot of it, which is great for me because I love stuff that's densely written, stuff that's not just slightly done like I've talked about with the cartoons, because you want to be able to rewatch stuff and re-enjoy stuff. In the same way I talk about Aaron Sorkin, the same way with West Wing, I've been able to rewatch that series over and over again and get new stuff for it every time. So what do you think about what's going on with Doctor Who?
I'm enjoying this season a lot more than I enjoyed the last season. I feel like Peter Capaldi is getting better. I wasn't a big fan of him the last season, but this season it seems like him and the writers are definitely playing around with him a little bit more. He's having a little bit more fun, with the whole change-up of the sonic screwdriver situation and him playing the guitar now. That's new, and it's fun and funny. So I'm enjoying him a lot more as a Doctor. As far as Clara, she is better this season, but I'm still not like a huge fan of her. I feel like the whole situation with her and Mr. Pink, now that that's done, it's a better situation between her and the Doctor now. But I don't know, there's something going on with her though that's kind of been stringing along this season so far. It seems like she's like, all right, let's go. Like, she wants to get away from like maybe like the real world issues and go on these like adventures with him all the time. And even the Doctor's kind of like, really, like, okay, we're gonna go. And
yeah, I hope that is
so it seems like there's something
into a story element at some point.
So I'm liking it so far this season.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you about Clara. I mean, to me, I just try to enjoy the episodes. I started off watching Doctor Who where I'd be watching it with my wife. Her parents were really into it, and so we got into it through them. And I would be like literally on my computer while watching Tennant and Eccleston first. And then once Matt Smith came in, he engaged me so much, especially the first episode where they show like all the doctors and he talks about is this planet protected to these aliens. It really grabbed me. And so I had to put the computer away. And now I can't do anything when I'm watching it. I have to watch with my glasses because we watch things with subtitles. And the fact that it's English really affects me in a way because if I'm listening to an American thing, I can kind of, not totally focus on it because it's phonetically like normal to me. I mean, if you sound like you're from New York, I can still get you. But when you have a British accent, I really have to be looking and paying attention. And so content-wise and where it comes from, I really have to pay attention to this. You said that guitar thing. It's funny because Capaldi was in a punk rock band with Craig Ferguson. So it seems to me that with the guitar, I don't think it's a fake thing. I think he's actually playing, number one. I think they're just letting him bring stuff from himself to it. So he's kind of like the rock and roll Doctor, which, to me, the way they created the character, he's not just one thing. And I think it's still one of the most ingenious things and practical things, pragmatic things that they did with this show to keep it going for 50 years is his character regenerates. So there's going to be a new actor. And you always know that. So the thing is about time and space, obviously, but to show that time is precious, you are actually watching this show realizing at some point that this guy's going to go away. So it kind of makes you appreciate the episodes as they go by, if you do appreciate the Doctor. I know people that do and don't. But yeah, I think it's a really fun series, and if it's something you were always wondering, weirdly about, like I didn't have a lot of interest in it when in the 80s when Tom Baker was, because the budget was low and it was more Star Trek TOS for me, which I couldn't handle the campy side of, and that part of it I just couldn't handle as a kid. So now that it's in this modern realm where they've actually got the ability to show this stuff better, I've definitely been enjoying it, because stuff that's not surface is great. So I definitely suggest that if you're wading into the nerd world and the sci-fi world, this is definitely a deeper one for you. So definitely check it out. I also have on our site, I have a kind of a Geek 101 for things, stories that you might want to check out. So you can check out that. I did do a write-up on Doctor Who. So moving on. Another update, another touch base. Walking Dead. We can't go without talking about this, and we're not going to spoil anything if you're not caught up, but major things have been happening in Walking Dead lately. And it's the show boggles my mind. I don't know if I've said it on this show yet, and if I have, I don't care if I'll say it again. My personal feeling about Walking Dead is the comic, because I haven't read it yet, but the story in general is the great American novel. It's this literary term that people like to do with, what's the best, whatever. But there's a term called the great American novel, like somebody's going to go off and write the great American novel. Well, I think Kirkman has done that with this story, because it is it's a survivor story. It's not a zombie story. I know so many people are like, oh, I can't watch zombies, whatever. There is gore in it, obviously there's gonna be, but the thing about it is what is humanity? It's kind of a question that it always asks every time. And it's like, how do you ride that line in this extreme circumstance and not go completely insane, but be able to survive and ride that line? And it's a fine line. And it comes up every time. And for them to be able to go, this is the 6th season. Is that right? I think it is. 6 seasons with only like 16 episodes now, have such deep 360-degree stories. Keep them up, because essentially it's still the same story. Like I said, it's surviving without going insane. But having Kirkman and these guys that write the show come up with stuff every time. Like last week's was a big emotional, big intense action episode. This last one we watched totally brought that down to very simplistic drama. I was watching The Talking Dead. I do watch The Talking Dead, and the way Chris Hardwick described it, it was a very almost like a two-man play. And that's really, I mean, this you could have seen. Take these actors, throw them on stage in New York, and it would have played. It would have been a short episode. It's an hour and a half, so maybe an hour and a half to play. But it would have. The actors were that quality. The writing was that quality. I am an evangelist for this show. I think that people, if they can tolerate and realize, number one, it's makeup, it's not real. Number two, for the violence and stuff, just know that this is like Shakespeare level type stuff, and it's coming from comic books. It's coming from the place that, for me, growing up, it was kid stuff. Nobody read comic books. Nobody wanted to admit that they read comics because it was considered kid stuff. But you got this great literature that's coming out of a comic book, and all props to Robert Kirkman. He's the kind of guy that if you talk to, you could tell he was smart, but it's also, he's a smart Southern guy. So there's always that stigma about the South. This guy is from Kentucky, I believe, and he's just done great work in this. It's just, I can't keep talking about it enough. It's so good. Anybody that likes any drama should get a hold of this, because I guarantee you, even my wife would say this, and she watches a lot of drama. She watches Scandal. She watches a lot of TV stuff. This is some of the best writing that's ever been on TV. And I'm a West Wing fan, and that's definitely, Sorkin's kills at writing. This stuff goes deeper than Sorkin, and a lot of times it's just, they have the knowledge that it doesn't always have to be the writing as well too. It can just be let the actors act without even writing. That's what happened in this last episode so well. Yeah. Just great. I'm blanking on the guy's name. Is it John Carroll Lynch? I think is his name. John Carroll Lynch was in this last episode, and oh my goodness, if you've seen Fargo, he was the Frances McDormand's husband in Fargo. If you've seen Zodiac, he was one of the suspects for the Zodiac killer. He's a balding gentleman, and just so good. And this is what I love about character actors. There's so many really good character actors, and I think a lot of people just go, well, I want to see Tom Cruise, or I want to see Tom Hanks, or I want to see, and Tom Hanks, let's face it, it's a character actor, but all these big things, and they just kind of go, oh, what's playing? There's so many really good character actors. If I were a director right now, I would be just casting character actors in everything. Forget the sexy, hot aspect of Hollywood, and you're going to have a great experience with these actors. So, I'm blanking on the guy's name that plays Morgan that was in this.
Sure.
Yeah, he's a British actor. If you watch the show, you will know. He's a great actor. I first knew him from the Guy Ritchie movie Snatch, where if you saw him in that, you would never expect that he could do Morgan, because Snatch is a very comic crime movie. Just so good.
This season, I think this season's had the best rating of every season, and for it to, like you say, this is like the 6th season to go this far, and it's getting this, it's still really, really good. And I think the other seasons have kind of been a little bit of roller coasters. There'll be like, some really good episodes or some that are like, why'd they do that? But this season, like, it's only like 4 or 5 episodes in.
Mm-hmm.
Every single episode, excellent. And it's,
I think maybe it's Gimple. I think maybe Gimple is just coming into his own. Scott M. Gimple, who's the executive producer and definitely involved heavily in the writing. I only know him from watching Talking Dead. I wouldn't have known who he was. Mm-hmm. But he is just a really sharp guy, really smart people working on this show. So you get caught up on Netflix, start watching it on a regular basis. It will be your new tradition. It will be you bring your tribe to it. It's very. I'm talking like it sounds silly to me still to this day because I grew up in a time where this stuff wasn't popular, but this is like deep human stuff. It's like it's the kind of stuff you can all go through, definitely endure emotionally, but kind of come out better from having watched. I really believe that, and it sounds like I'm selling a religion. I'm not. It's just good storytelling. It's good storytelling. Doesn't matter where it comes from.
Church of Robert Kirkman.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. So the next thing I put down was Thanksgiving to talk about. It's coming up. I'm excited. I'm going to see my family this year, and I have 2 picks. You might have some picks, so I didn't talk to him about this yet, but my 2 picks for Thanksgiving movies, the first one is Genius movie done by John Hughes called Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. I love this movie so much. It's starring Steve Martin and John Candy, and Steve Martin is a businessman that's just trying to get home. That's all he wants to do is get home to his family, and because of the weather, of course, at this time of year in the eastern United States, of course, everything is against him to try to get home. And along the way, he encounters a curtain ring salesman played by, rest in peace, John Candy. John Candy, I can't not say John Candy and say love at the same time. He was such a great actor. I've listened to comedians and stuff that have worked with him. They say that he was the Canadian's Canadian. Everybody knows Canadians for being polite. They said he was the most generous, loving guy. Just a great guy. And he's so good in this movie. Really has a lot of heart. You've seen it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So good. I'm a huge John Hughes movie fan. I mean, and the nice thing about basically what happened, if you were a John Hughes movie fan and you went through the 80s and saw the teen stuff, just as you got out of that, you got some glimpses of adulthood. You had She's Having a Baby, and you had Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. One I didn't like so much is The Great Outdoors. I wasn't a huge fan. You probably, I don't know if you liked it, but yeah. So there was like, it was like, okay, I got enough of the teen stuff. I got to grow up a little bit. Mm-hmm. But Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, definitely, it's a home run. It's so good, so funny. Yeah, I just highly advise it. And the other one is Jodie Foster directed a movie called Home for the Holidays with starring Holly Hunter, Robert Downey Jr., and the great rest in peace, and Brandon Croft, Mel Brooks' wife, who was also Mrs. Robinson in The Graduate, Charles Durning, who I believe has passed away recently too. He was a great actor too, and it's literally about this single mother who her daughter is played by Claire Danes. Holly Hunter is the single mother, and she goes home to her wonderful, just dysfunctional, eclectic family. And that's as simple as it can be. I mean, so to me, that's character is my favorite thing. So if you just throw one character in the midst of all these weird characters, it's just great. And so Robert Downey Jr. plays her brother, and Dylan McDermott is a friend of his that comes, and so there's this kind of romantic interest there. But just a fun, just certainly awkward take on family holiday time. But I think it's great. It's funny. I think I'm the only one. Have you seen it?
Yeah.
Okay, because we'll have to watch it, because I tried to tell everybody else in this house, and they're like,
No, I love it. It's funny.
Yeah, it's
I haven't
really
seen it in a
good.
few years, but yeah. It's a funny movie.
It's really good.
Yeah, if you're into those dysfunctional family type of stuff, like all the weird family members and everything.
Yeah, they should have done Thanksgiving Vacation, because that would have been fun too. Another John Hughes movie. So, is there any more? I mean, there's obviously
I would say Planes, Trains, and Automobiles was a classic at our house for
that's good.
Thanksgiving, but also, and it seems weird because it's Thanksgiving, but then this movie's not necessarily Thanksgiving, but we would see Miracle on 34th Street,
Okay.
the original, because that movie starts off at the end of the Thanksgiving Day,
Right, that makes
and then
sense.
goes off into the Christmas
That makes
season.
sense.
So it was kind of a good, like, all right, Thanksgiving dinner's done, we're all to chill out, and then see this and get ourselves ready for the next holiday season.
How many dead people can we talk about today? Not Natalie Wood. Oh, Natalie Wood. But yeah, no, that's a great movie, and that's kind of a cool way to do that. I thought Lainey and I have always been wanting to do this, and we never got organized with it. Maybe with you in the house now, we can kind of get organized about watching seasonal movies. Yeah, I have my seasonal movies. I have my subversive, like July the 4th picks, which is JFK and Gangs of New York. But so, anyways, maybe we'll talk about those more when it gets closer next year. But yeah, so I just wanted to bring up the seasonal stuff because it is that time, and this is my favorite time of year. I think autumn actually might be my favorite time, just because it's like Christmas is coming. And it's that first sign that Christmas is coming. Of course, we live in Florida, so we don't know from falling leaves or whatever. But this is my favorite time of year for sure. Now, you saw Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood.
Yep.
I have yet to see it. You can talk freely about it. I'm not worried about spoilers. But he finished it just recently, so I thought maybe you should talk about it.
Oh wow! Yeah, that show. Holy cow! So basically, I want to say it was like probably the first night I moved into this place.
You must watch.
Vince and Marshall were like, okay, this is what we're doing now. You're going to watch the series. And I'm so glad I did, because that show, I had heard of it. My little brother watched the original series like a while back. So like back when I was living at home, my little brother would be watching it. But
And there's a distinction. Brotherhood is closer to the manga, and what I've been told is the preferred thing. So if you're going to get into this, make sure you watch the Brotherhood one, because I've watched the non-Brotherhood one, so I've heard it's definitely better, and at some point I'm going to be going back and watching it.
Yeah, and this show, it starts off, following the two brothers that are alchemists in this world, and it's really complicated to get into it and explain exactly what these things mean. But so I'll try to go easy with it. But basically, they work for, it's like an alternate universe kind of place where it's old timey as well. And they are these alchemists that are run by this. They work for the state, the government, and they can manipulate elements, and they use it to basically work for like the military. And it starts off that way, and you're like, okay, this is them just going to be going on these adventures, but also trying to fix themselves. They try to bring their mother back from the dead, and you're not supposed to be you can't bring life back. That's a big taboo with alchemists and stuff in this world. And because of that, one brother lost his arm and his leg, and the other lost his body completely. His soul is tied to the suit of armor. And it's hilarious because it's this giant suit of armor, big bulking thing, and it's this little kid's voice that comes out of it. And I thought it was hilarious at first. But then all these other elements start happening, and all these other characters get introduced, and there's this big thing happening in the background, and they end up getting pulled into it, and it's exciting, it's amazing, and the characters are so well made and written, and for this to all be in an anime, a cartoon, it blew my mind. I mean, I think it was one of the best television shows I've ever seen, and I've seen not a whole lot, all the way from beginning to end. And this isn't a whole lot of episodes. It's probably about 60-ish. Yes. But man, I don't think I've ever seen any show like that carried all the way through with amazing writing and characters and everything. and every episode there was something just amazing happening, and yeah, and I highly recommend it. Even if you're not someone that's into like anime or things like that, it's got something for everyone. It's got a little bit of humor and a lot of seriousness. So, if you like something that's character driven, this is it. I mean, it's so good.
Yeah, it is funny that the little brother is like the bigger of the two, and of course, there's all kinds of jokes that the older brother is short, and there's a lot of like I said, there's a lot of humor in it.
Mm-hmm.
What have you seen anything else recently? I think you saw something with Lainey. Did you guys watch a movie or something like that?
We watched Tucker and Dale versus Evil.
Oh yeah, that's
we were trying to find Halloween movies to watch, and she hadn't seen that yet, and I had seen it, so we streamed that on Netflix, and she really ended up liking it. It's funny, it's ridiculous, because it starts off as like it's this normal cabin in the woods type of horror movie. These college kids, they're gonna go get high and drunk and all that stuff at the cabin in the woods, and all these things. And like from their perspective, it's a horror movie. But to Tucker and Dale, these rednecks that live in the woods and everything, well, it's their vacation home in the woods. It's not a horror movie, and it's all this ridiculous stuff that just keeps happening with the kids.
So it's like it's almost like a Rosencrantz and Guildenstern type thing.
Yeah.
Where
yes.
they see the other side
Pretty much.
of the story. Do you guys know Rosencrantz and Guildenstern are dead? It's two minor characters from Hamlet, and this one guy, Tom Stoppard, wrote a play from their perspective, and they're really completely idiots. So you just kind of see, and if you saw Lion King 1.5, I believe it was, where Timon and Pumbaa's.
I've seen that one.
But you know what I'm talking about. That it was like their side of the whole Lion King.
Mm-hmm.
They literally showed the entire Lion King movie from their side of it. I believe that's the one, the Lion King 1.5. And so that's the concept. So it's Alan Tudyk from Firefly.
Mm-hmm.
If you guys like it, he's great. He's a genius actor. I've known him even before with Firefly from 28 Days, the recovery movie with Sandra Bullock. He was so genius in that. Yeah. My son dies, and what do you know the name of the other actor?
I don't know. He was in Reaper.
Reaper, a TV show that came out that was like canceled, but it was actually a lot of fun. He's also been in Zack and Miri. They just played a bit role, but I'm blanking on his name. But he's a really great actor, really funny.
Mm-hmm.
One of those guys that just naturally so funny. So yeah, that's one. It's more if you're into more of the, I guess, the Shaun of the Dead type comedy horror stuff.
Yeah.
Like we talked about Scream Queens last week. That kind of stuff. Definitely check out Tucker and Dale versus Evil. Is there anything else?
No, that was pretty much
Okay, that's pretty much it. Well, thanks for listening, and we'll be coming back at you. I'm going to be out of town soon for a big Thanksgiving, so we'll be coming back when we come back. Until we can get his schedule and my schedule and everybody's schedule wrangled. There's lots of changes going on with us right now, so we'll do our best to get to you on a regular basis. Thanks a lot, and we're out.